I guess I have to pop up on the screen. Hi, everybody. This is Deirdre Verbo, and welcome to Let's Talk Seniors, Memory Care Issues, Alzheimer's, Dementia, and Parkinson's, bringing you Monday through Thursday at 5 p.m. information about seniors, our most precious people. So many of you know me already. I'm Deirdre Verbo, and I'm author and a senior housing specialist. I both buy houses from seniors who are looking to sell and renovate them. I buy them in cash, renovate them. So if you're looking to sell your house, give me a call. And I also am so excited to be starting my residential assisted living facility in Shelton, Connecticut for 6 seniors. It's a beautiful ranch style home on an acre property, and it's opening July 1. So I'm super excited. Call me for a tour or feel free to come. Call me for a tour. We'll talk. I also wrote a book. It's called Home to Home, the Step-by-Step Housing Guide for Seniors, and have a workbook that goes with it. I was going to be teaching everybody at senior centers, but now COVID hit. But it's chock full of information about what to do if you want to stay home, reverse mortgages, if you want to sell your house, where to go, what to do, what you need to know. The workbook is full of information on trusts and how to fund everything and where your family can find your money, your will, your wishes. So please give me a call if you want either of those. I sell them on Amazon, but I'm happy to mail you a copy. I will give you my number at the end. And I've been sending them out right and left, and I'd love to get them in your hands. Today we have a special guest who's also a friend of mine, and we share the same mentor. Her name is Robin Maniscalco. I don't mess up her name there. And she is the wellness resource. She's going to tell you her story, but she started the wellnessresourcesupport.com. It's a site to help people sort out whenever somebody gets sick, what do you do? If you're an advocate for your parent that goes into the hospital that may have cancer or dementia or whatever they have, or you have a special needs loved one and you don't know where to turn, what are the resources? There are tons of resources, but where do you find them? No, who knows? She has compiled websites and information and chock full of information for you to turn to. And she's doing this out of love. She has a regular daytime job. She's doing this out of love, and she will tell you her story. But she's a best-selling author, speaker, and the founder of the Wellness Resource Support. She started her caregiving journey after her own mother suffered a severe stroke. It was during that time that this idea sprang up in her head. Dealing with frustrations of managing everyday care led to hours of research to find solutions. Her passion and drive for helping others figure out a better way is what makes her stand out in the caregiver community. So let's all welcome my friend, Robin. Hi, Robin. How are you?
Hi, Deirdre.
There. How are you? Welcome to the show. It's so nice to have you here. It's so nice to see you, even though it's not in person, but everybody else gets to meet you. And I love that you started this from your heart, out of a place of figuring it out for yourself and realizing that now you had a wealth of information to share with others because you spent hours and hours and hours and hours figuring it all out. So why don't you tell us a little bit about, well, what do you do in the day? And then tell us how you came up with this idea and what it's all about.
So I work in corporate America during the day. And so this started basically because my mom had a stroke and, was fine one day. And then we get a call, she's in the hospital, and your whole world is upside down. She was a relatively healthy person before, and then she's in a stroke, she's in a coma. And by the, for the first few months of her being in a vegetative state, and they had put in like a feeding tube and a trach, and they removed part of her skull. So we had to learn a lot of how to care for her. And there were just so many. First of all, learning to fight for your loved one is a huge thing. There were definitely times that we pushed the envelope, and that was one of the biggest lessons that I learned. And then the frustrations of the everyday caring and knowing that, they send you home and they're telling you to lift her up and hold her by her pants. I'm like, there has to be a safer way. This can't be the safest option to lift and pivot her and put her in a wheelchair. So, I would do just tons of research at nights and on weekends while I was caring for her, while she was sleeping, and to find resources. And then we'd be out and people would be like, oh, where did you get that? Or that's so great. Or how'd you hear about that? And, it just evolved into starting a business where.
So, Robin,
putting
when
them
you say
together.
you had to fight, you had to advocate for your mom, do you mean to get the resources or to find them or for doctors to tell you things, or what was the fight about?
I see. I'm the type of person where I'm going to ask a lot of questions, especially when I'm dealing with my mom and the situation. And I'll do my own research before I speak to some of these doctors. So I have an idea. And a lot of them used to ask me where I got my medical degree. I'm like, Google. But fighting for her in ways that I would push, because oftentimes when somebody's in a situation where they're that critical, the doctor's focus is on like one specific thing. So for example, when she was in a coma, their focus was on getting her out of that coma and, what was the next step? What was her EKGs showing? Was she having seizures, etc.? Where my focus was on that, but what else would be causing a problem? So I was actually speaking to somebody who works at Harvard and specializes in physical therapy. He's got a PhD in physical therapy, on what should I be doing while she's in this coma to help her because it had been a few weeks, and he told us physical therapies that we should be doing, like exercises, how we should be moving her, how many times a day while she was in a coma.
Oh.
And even when she was in this vegetative state, my family, luckily I come from a large family. So I have 3 sisters and my dad. There was 5 of us rotating, taking care of her. And we would take turns doing physical therapy on her at least 4 to 5 times a day, just moving all of her joints while she was in the coma. Then when she was in the vegetative state, because she's not awake, and you don't want that, you don't want everything to get stiff, because it just makes therapy that much harder. And we were not giving up. Like, we were like, no, she is going to move again. And when she got to the point where she was able to go for therapy and was awake, the doctors were like, wow, you really preserved her joints really well. Like, she's got good range of motion. And it was like, it took months of hard work, and all of us, no matter how tired we were.
They never told you. They never told you.
But no, doctors never told us that. It just came from other people that I spoke to, because one of the things that I learned is you never know who knows somebody that can help you in the situation. So when you talk about what's going on, that's how I came across this person from Harvard. Was somebody I knew, was a relative, and he said, hey, my cousin works in this specialty, and maybe you should connect with him. And it's like, okay. And then he gave me some awesome advice. He then later on helped her get into a trial because at certain points the insurance stopped for a few months. They wouldn't let her do therapy, and we would continue, but he got her in a clinical trial for robotics, the same person. So you just never know who's going to help you and in what way. So that's what I'm like, fighting for your loved one. Don't just take everything at face value. Ask questions, even if, because doctors just tell me all the time, let's not worry about that. That's something to worry about down the line. Well, no, I want to know, like, right. What are the next steps? After this surgery, what's after that? What could happen? Like, not just don't go over the risks of this person may die or this or that, but what else do I need to know going forward? Like, that's who I am. And her doctors eventually learned that, and they used to cater to that. And if they didn't, I would have found new doctors, because that's something
it's like doctors, if you go to a doctor for diabetes and they're putting on medicine, instead of like talking to you about nutrition and other things and exercise, they're like giving you pills. My dad was on 26 pills a day for diabetes, and hey, could have just gone to a nutritionist. But, so that's the kind of thing you're saying, like, what else can we be doing that's not just this one thing, this doctor saving your life, which is great, but now what should we be doing for all the rest of the stuff? So you were always researching constantly. Yeah. We also talked to mom while she was in the coma.
So the doctors said that she could. Some doctors said she could hear us. Others said not. Me and my sisters did some research on that, and then we spoke to other neurosurgeons who confirmed that with her medications, she was able to hear us. When she did wake up, she didn't know. She didn't remember anything during like a year of her life, but when we would talk, there would be times that there would be tears in her eyes, So sorry, I get very
1 year
emotional.
she was in a coma?
She was in a coma for 2 months, and then she was in a vegetative state for another 7 to 8 months.
Wow.
Yeah. And, she would, if she wasn't responsive, there would be tears. So we did not discuss her situation in front of her, because, they told us that she could hear. So if we were discussing anything serious, we would leave the room, and because the power of the mind is amazing. And if somebody is being told they're not going to make it, they're not going to make it, they're not going to make it, they're not going to make it. They're going to believe that, So we didn't we. I mean, coming from a big family, there were arguments on a daily basis. You had 5 different personalities. So if there were arguments, we'd leave the room. If there was any tension, we'd leave the room. We just didn't want it in her space.
Nice.
So yeah,
you know what? I believe that too. I have a cousin who is autistic, and she's like 10 years younger than me. So I used to babysit for her all the time when I was a kid, and she couldn't speak till she was 9, and she was, banged her head on the wall and was very insular, and you couldn't touch her, and she made no eye contact, and she didn't speak. But my aunt and the whole family talked to her as if she knew everything we were saying. Now, she didn't respond like she knew what we were saying, but we just talked to her regularly and taught her just like we teach anybody. Well, when she was 9, she started to speak, and she could tell you verbatim what people said to her for years. She was processing it, but she couldn't show you she was processing it, or she couldn't speak. And now she speaks, she reads, she writes, she does math, she reads the paper, she follows the Yankees. But I'm just saying that you don't know. Like, it didn't look like she was getting it at all. So I am a huge advocate in what you just said. Talk to them. You never know. Like, they're there, good energy in the room, make them feel like everything, they're going to pull through and everything. And yes, absolutely. And be the advocate for your parent. It's not easy because you're not a doctor. And how many doctors do you have to deal with on a daily basis? My daughter just had a baby. There were like 22 different people in the room every day, and then 22 different people the next day. How many people? Like, you don't have like 2 people that you're dealing with. You're dealing with crews of people that keep changing. Yeah. So, or they keep wanting to change your regiment, and you have to be the advocate. So then what do you have, like binders of information and things you're collecting?
Well, we used to have a journal. Well, we have multiple ones actually, that we kept at the hospital with her at all times. So whenever they would give her medication, because there was 5 of us and we were rotating, when they would give her medications, when they'd give us test results, whatever the doctors came in and said, we would journal it. So that whoever, if my sister wasn't there, when she came, she'd read it and catch up on what's going on. We also started to find patterns, when it was like, hey, she didn't get this medication yesterday. What happened? People make mistakes. Hospitals make mistakes. And I think that the statistic, I remember reading it at the time, was something like 65% of all deaths in hospitals are at the hands of a mistake of a human, from the result of human error.
Wow.
And I felt that was extremely high, but yet I could see how that's possible, because there were plenty of times that we caught mistakes when you have people changing shifts, people are overworked, they're tired. I mean, you're human, and things happen, and things get forgotten, or medication is given too late. But with certain medications, you have to give them a specific time. So it was our way. We journaled and we kept all of that. But then I had separate, I used to carry around a bag with me that literally had like printouts and notebooks and things jotted down, research that people gave me. Yeah, it was you don't realize what you need to do until you're faced with having to do it. So had I, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, if you would have told me that I would have been doing something like that, I'd be like, no. But you do what you need to do. You step forward and you make things happen.
So out of that came your Project from the Heart, which is the wellness resource site. And tell us a little bit about that, and who will it benefit, and who's it for?
So we have it's an online community. We have a membership that basically houses all of these resources. So it's broken out. We call complete care. So it breaks out into products that are available, whether it's technologies, or one-off items that could help you, like for safety around the house or moving someone, different things that you might find. Like for example, my mother, when she was more mobile, like she couldn't use her left side, but she felt very alone. Like she didn't feel like she was part of anything. So doing something simple like peeling potatoes, I found a peeler that you slide on someone's finger like a ring. And all she had to do, the one hand that she could move, was go back and forth, and she was
Aw,
peeling a potato. And it was I mean, it would take her forever to peel that one potato, but she
okay.
felt like she was somewhat normal again. Like she felt like she was getting some of her normalcy back. So things like that, we have different resources. And then we have Care Connections, which we connect people to different trainings that are available to people. There are different programs, camps. If you have a traumatic brain injury, they actually have a camp for the patient and the family to go and do trainings and have fun activities and actually learn things. They also have, if you have someone who has diabetes and need companion care, someone to watch after somebody who's got diabetes, who's trained in taking sugar and knowing how to administer insulin, they have like a what's called Safe Sitters. It's a program that they have trained babysitters, whether it's for a youthful person or an adult, an older person, that can come and be the companion person and sit with your loved one that has diabetes, and you don't have to worry about. They know, they're trained on administering and what to look for. They have programs that if you were needed to make your house handicap accessible, there's grants that are available that you can apply for. And these are things that most people don't know. And to be honest, I didn't even know about all this stuff, obviously, until I started this business. And I found more and more and more there. If you can't afford prescriptions, there are certain financial aid programs that you can apply for, especially if they don't offer it in a generic version. And then we have Care Facts, which is where we do interviews with medical experts, doctors, and other experts in the medical field, and covering different topics such as hospice care, such as Alzheimer's, and just their educational and questioning interviews like this, where people give like tips and tricks and some common information, and breaking things down to be simplified. That's probably one of the key things that we do, is we try
That,
to
that's
simplify things.
that's so key because it's not like something we do every day, right? If you get cancer, you're probably not going to get it 5 times. You're going to deal with cancer once in your life, or somebody with cancer. So everything's new. You haven't the reason you don't know about anything is because you never had to know about anything. But to sit there and spend like 100 hours or 200 hours or 300, however many hours your family combined together, it's amazing. But also, if you don't have the time or inclination, or don't even know there are places to turn, I'm learning so much just by interviewing people about seniors and Alzheimer's and things that I didn't realize and I didn't know. And now I'm helping like my aunt and relatives and people like that are aging for different things in different states around the country. So it's like a one-off thing. People don't know until they need it.
Right.
And then they can also look up things because you don't even know what's out there. You have zero idea what's out there. My brother's Down syndrome, and there's special camps, and you could get that paid for Down syndrome kids all summer because they need to continuously learn. And my parents are huge advocates for Down syndrome adults and the AARP. People have no idea what's out there. So this is an incredible resource to let everybody know. And you must be compiling all day long.
Well, yeah, my team, we have certain people that do the research, and we recommend different things like books to read. We also try to simplify things. Like I can't tell you how many people I've spoken to that have been diagnosed with AFib, and they don't even know what it is. Like just seniors, where they're like, "Oh, my doctor says I have to wear this monitor. I have AFib," and I'm like, "Do you know what that is?" And they're like, "Just something with the heart." And I'm like, I'll explain it to them and simplify it in the way that I would a small child.
Yeah.
And then they're like, "Oh, that makes sense." So, one of the things that we offer on social media, and we have a blog, which is free to anyone. We do videos and we do written blogs where we simplify things like that for people to help them understand. We go through different types of, if you're caring for somebody that doesn't really want you to shower them. What are some options you have as far as like helping with their personal hygiene or being prepared? Like there are things that I've talked to people about doing, like a family agreement, which is something it's that's not drawn up by an attorney, although you can, but it's just a way for people to allocate the responsibilities of what's going to happen and who's going to do what for this person. So everybody kind of stays in their lane to mitigate the huge fighting that can go on and because when you have a highly emotional state and people are worried about their loved one, like your mother or your father, and then you have siblings coming together, all different personalities, and everybody's got their opinion and everybody's right, it becomes like, a battleground sometimes. So
Well, what I see a lot with my friends is there's one person nearby and the others don't live anywhere nearby. So it falls on that person. And I've realized it's a blessing that that person gets to see their parent, for the end of their life. It's more of a blessing, even though, it's also a lot of work and responsibility. But the others have to, it would be great to have an outline to say like, all right, well, it'd be good if you spend a week or two here so I get a break, or, what your responsibility is. If I'm going to be the one doing it, then you have to chip in for some things or whatever it is. So, that it's doesn't feel unfair, because a lot of times it seems the responsibility falls on the person that lives closest and the others sometimes just stay out of the picture. Sometimes I don't even know what to do, but sometimes they just, just say, oh,
yes and no, because if you allocate things correctly, it doesn't have to fall on that one person. So people tend to choose to be that one person so they could have control. But if you do shared caregiving, there's a lot of technology today that can help out. Granted, the physical aspect would be that one person, but there are things that a lot of states now offer respite care. So if you're the primary caregiver for somebody and you need respite care because you need a break, you can be covered, depending on your insurance in the state, to have somebody stay with your loved one while you can take a vacation for a week or just get a break for a week, whatever the case may be.
or they could go somewhere. They could go to an assisted living place or a nursing home for a week or two. They have like little hotel rooms.
Yeah. Well, nice. They also have the in-home respite care. So it depends on the state. Some of them will put the person in a facility. Some of them will have somebody at home. It really depends. I mean, and there's so many technologies today that, my sister and I used to use apps to kind of keep track of, because, two of my sisters have big families. They couldn't be there every day. So it was, we would alternate who could go to a doctor this day, who couldn't. If somebody couldn't be there physically, maybe they had money, so they would pay for things and order things and send it. If somebody didn't really have the money, but they have more of the time to help out, then they can go there and get time. There are other options where people can get breaks. And these are things that we discuss in our membership. Going to a local church or a local community chapter, they often do things like companion care, and they have little clubs where people can go and give you a break, so that if you need to go pick up prescriptions or go food shopping, somebody could sit there. They're not going to administer any medical, anything medically like prescriptions or anything like that, but they could sit there with your loved one to make sure that they're safe while you go run some errands. And there's resources like that are out there. And that's pretty much
Robin, your resource is pretty comprehensive. It's almost like I don't want to say a nonprofit, because you're offering it at almost nothing for a lifetime. How much is it tell us how it works. How much is it if somebody becomes a member, and what things are free, what's covered in a membership?
So we offer a lifetime membership, and then within the membership is access to all the resources. There are different sections that are on the website for the care skills, for different trainings, we also have a map of all 50 states. So depending on where you are, you can click to see what's local and then what's national for that state, or what's national across all 50 states, as far as certain programs and trainings and things like that. And then there's products available, and there's technologies, and we break down if somebody's got mobility issues, if somebody has nutrition issues, if they have a feeding tube or things like that. We just kind of break things out. And now that we have an app, which is even easier for people, that all of the resources are available on our app as well. And the lifetime membership is $127. For your viewers, we will give them a discount. We'll take $20 off. So it would be $107. They would just need to type in the code HOME, and they'll get a discount for signing up.
That's like a nonprofit. A lifetime membership for 107, not having to do all this research yourself. That's craziness. So when people come on, what is the most research topic you've had so far?
So what do you mean by the most research topic? As far as
Like do people come, or I don't know if you can tell this, but do people come on searching for a particular thing the most? Like, I want to know about cancer, I want to know about hospital advocacy, or what do you think the prime topic is that takes?
It varies. Yeah, it definitely varies. And I would say that the biggest question that I get asked the most is, what do I do next? That's literally the biggest question. Because, okay, I got a diagnosis, this one, I got a diagnosis for my loved one. What do I do next? And that's where it becomes, okay, well, people making sure their house is safe. I'd say that that's a pretty big one, is home safety. And we recommend things for people to do. We're actually doing webinars right now, trainings where we dive deep, and anybody can register for that. It's caregiverwebinar.com, and that is we're offering them free. We're just diving deep into certain things. We did one on patient safety and things that you should be considering and looking for around your home. Being prepared when you don't know what to do. What can you do in advance of not knowing what to do? We do things like financial strain, the effects and the importance of probiotics on a body, especially if you have chronic illness and you're healing, and how beneficial that is to both your immune system and your healing. So we dive down deeper into some of these webinars so that people can certainly sign up for the webinar and get some great information there as well.
People can go to caregiverwebinar.com and choose a webinar they want to go to and a time. And Rob, when I first met you, I honestly thought you were a nurse. I thought you were a nurse who came up with this idea because you are so informed. You're so informed about so many medical things. And I get it's just from doing tons of research because you're in the corporate America and have nothing to do with healthcare, right? In the day. You're like so it's like crazy. But I honestly thought you were a nurse that came up with this great idea because of, people that needed it. So I give you so much credit for coming up with an idea that just everybody needs, just the layperson. But oh my gosh, how much have you learned about the medical world since you've been doing this?
I've learned a lot, but not nearly, enough. Like I don't, for me, I know enough of the basics to help have a discussion with people and to help simplify things. But obviously I don't have a medical degree. I'm not, I'm not a doctor. So to get too in depth, I would need to do my research. But I know some of the basics, especially some common things.
Got your Google MD. Got your Google MD.
Yes.
So,
when my mom was in the coma and they were talking about different surgeries and different things. She was in Philadelphia, which is an hour and a half from where I live. And basically those car rides were listening to webinars. I was watching YouTube videos. I was watching surgeries, just trying to educate myself so that when the doctors were speaking, I could understand what they were saying and then knew what questions to ask. So basically, ever since I was a kid, I would find a simple way to understand whatever it was and make up like a little story in my head so that it would stick. Like I felt that, when I was a kid, it was very big, like I just remember my mom back in like the 80s was like, you had to drink water to lose weight. Like you had to drink water, which is still the case today. But I just felt like it was a big, it was all over the place. And I had seen some article in like National Geographic back then. It was a magazine my dad used to get, and they had looked at water under a microscope by like I think it was like 100 million times or something, and it looked like a little bug to me. So in my mind, I'm like, oh, you drink water to lose weight because the little bugs eat your fat and then leave your body. So in my mind, I would simplify, what's going on. I did a video on the coronavirus and what it does to your body. And I had little props where I'm like, this is with the coronavirus and this is what it does. And this is how it latches on. And just to kind of make it a silly, funny, simplified version because it's easier to remember and understand.
That is helpful. Well, listen, my cousin got very sick right before New Year's Eve with leukemia, and her house was very old and in the woods and surrounded by trees, and she couldn't go home unless they demolded her house. So they had to rip apart a bathroom, they had to demold it, they had to do it. And somebody helped them find out that you could get like help for this because it cost them like $20,000 before they could bring her home. So, and there was help you could get from like, I don't know if it was leukemia or cancer, or there was some sort of help, financial help that people would come in and do this. So it was amazing, but they had no idea. But it was before they can come in. Everything had to be cleaned and washed and demolded and special, like she'd buy like $1,000 thing to clean the air all the time because she couldn't have any mold at all. And who would know? Like it's crazy. But who would even know there was a place to get help? So if they had your resource, they can find it, right? So, but you don't even know that these are things you have to know. And then
Exactly.
you don't even know that there are people out there, or there's some sort of grants for this, or people that will come and help you do it that have gone through it, or whatever it is. So it's great to know. It's great to know. Like hospice costs money? Like I always wondered that. Do you have to pay when hospice comes to your house?
It depends on your insurance.
Oh, your insurance
Really,
pays.
yeah, your insurance. I mean, if you're approved for, some pay fully, some pay partially, but it depends on your insurance whether it's going to be at home. I mean, most of these insurance companies want you to stay at home. When they sent my mom home in this vegetative state, she couldn't move, and they didn't give us an aid because we got approved for an aid 4 hours a day, but where my parents live, there was like one bus into that town, so they could never find an aide that would go there. So I
Oh
wound
my
up hiring
gosh.
privately anyway because, we couldn't, when you're in a vegetative state, you have to be rotated every 2 hours or you start to get bed sores and, other issues start to set in. So plus she had a feeding tube. We had to give her water every 4 hours. We had to get, I mean, it was just, it was for one person to manage all of that just wasn't happening. So, it's people, when you're in a situation like this, you realize what kind of insurance you have. And in the beginning, my mom did not have good insurance, and then we looked into changing her insurance after the after the stroke. But it was not an easy. And then certain insurances that if you get covered, like people that go for a Medicaid, you can't go out of state to another doctor. Like, so if we would have got her Medicaid in New York, she couldn't go see her neurosurgeons in Philly. And that guy, because of the type of stroke she had, was so rare, there's only a handful of neurosurgeons in the country that are trained in handling that type of stroke, because the type of stroke she had, 5 out of 10 million stroke patients get that type of stroke. It's so rare. And they have less than 10% chance of, only 1 in 5 ever survive. Not even, I think it was 10, she had 10% chance of surviving that stroke. And
Oh
she
my
did. She survived it for 3 years. Um,
Unbelievable. But probably because she had all the family love and the family support and the family figuring it out and making sure of everything. That's amazing. That's an amazing story, Robin. It really is. That is
yeah.
amazing. How old was your mother when she passed?
Um, she was 69 when she had the stroke. Now you're making me do math. So 72.
She was young. She was still young. She was still young.
Yeah, she was young, and she ultimately passed because of a fall, because she was on blood thinners and we didn't know that she had an aneurysm,
Oh,
and she fell and it burst within 2 hours of her falling on the way to the ER because she was fine. I just had my sister and like pick her up and bring her as a precaution because just in case she hit her head, I don't want her to. And
oh,
and they
man.
literally got to the ER and she was, her pupils were blown at that point.
After all that.
Um, yeah,
After all that.
but she was getting her independence back, and that's why she fell. She
That's
decided she was going to
unbelievable.
pick herself up out of the bed and put herself in the wheelchair while my dad was walking up the steps to try to put her in the wheelchair. She wanted to surprise him and put herself in, which is why she fell. But that's also part of the disease. When you have a brain injury, most times you don't even know the consequences. And the doctors told us this. She doesn't understand consequences. So if she has an impulse to stand up, she doesn't know that she can fall and get hurt.
Yeah.
And those are things that you need to be wary of. And it's like, okay, then you got to get mats, to alert you if there's pressure points. I mean, there's just so many things to protect your loved ones. And that's pretty much what we want to do. We want to be able to help people be able to manage everyday care as well as having a life to some degree. I mean, my mom, my mom used to love to travel before her stroke. And once she was stable enough, I took her on a cruise. I called every cruise line to figure out who had the most handicap accessible rooms, the biggest, widest rooms, because she had a very big wheelchair, and who had lifts that could bring her in the pool, like what I needed to know.
Do you
And
have that on your site?
yeah, and there's also a company that helps people that have disabilities arrange travel arrangements that will tell you these hotels are handicap accessible, these are not. You don't realize
You
how
have
many
that on your
places.
site, Robin?
Yeah, this is all on my site.
That's so cool. That's great.
You don't realize how many places are not handicap accessible until you have somebody in a wheelchair that you're trying to get into a bathroom or manage to go through a restaurant. It becomes very, very apparent to you that I used to have to call ahead of places.
I also think recently, I have never seen it before until like the past like 2 or 3 years. I've noticed that they'll ask, do you need any handicap accessibility? And there are, a lot of hotels now that offer all the shower help and the wheelless, showers that you walk into without a lift. I think because a lot of people are living till late, and there are a lot of travelers that are older. And even if you're not in a wheelchair, it's hard to lift your leg over a bathtub, when you're 85 years old and you're traveling in Italy. So they want something. So they've been asking. It's the first time I ever was like aware of it the past few years that they ask, and I've seen all the handicap stuff, which is great. It's great. Otherwise, yeah, they can't go anywhere.
No, but you want to get back to somewhat of a normal life as much as you can, and that's really, people, is
Sorry about
to
that.
get them
Yeah.
to get some to get back to some sort of normalcy again, because every patient that's going through this is struggling, and sometimes people don't, put yourself in that I mean, it's tough as a caregiver, because you are giving like 99% of yourself, and then you can get caregiver burnout, which is a concern as well. And we do address that on our site, and we offer some tools and some apps to download to help you and with dealing with that. But it's tough for the patient as well, because they're dealing with the fact that they might have been independent at once, and now all of a sudden they can't speak, or they can't move. They can't go to the bathroom on their own, they can't shower themselves. Like, think of the vulnerabilities if you suddenly had to have some stranger start giving you a shower.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just.
I've learned so much from doing the memory care home about Alzheimer's and dementia, and just how to talk to approach people and meet them where they are instead of trying to bring logic into their world. Just exactly what you were saying about your mom, like how she wanted to be independent, but she didn't realize the consequence. If she stood up, she could fall, or she could be at the edge of a stair and fall because she's not putting it together that this is a stair. So that's what I'm learning so much about with the dementia and Alzheimer's, and how to meet people where they are and not just, try to bring them back to reality when they're not in it at the moment. It's like, it doesn't make sense. So it's so important to know how to talk to somebody, what to do with them, where to find the resources, and you have it all. What is your goal with the site? What is your goal? Because I know you've spent how long? A year on this now?
So we launched the site launched in the fall of 2019. So, I mean, it took longer to build and get things on, but we launched officially in I think it was like October 2019. And now we just launched our app. So we're looking to get, to drive people to download the app, because it's just easier and it's more convenient. And, there are things like I wanted to mention to you, there's a card game that I used to have, I got from my mom. And it was created by somebody who, her mother was, she was a patient, she was going through Alzheimer's, and she was starting to lose memory. And she did some research, and she developed a card game that would you would ask different questions, and those questions would trigger different parts of your brain. So that basically the similarity where if somebody has dementia and some brain injuries, because it's all still part of the brain injury realm, they can get stuck in a loop sometimes where they're stuck on the same thing. Like, my mom would be like, what time is it? Oh, it's 3:00. It's 3:00. Oh, what time is it? It's 3:00. Oh, it's raining. It's raining. It's raining. And similarities like that happen with other brain injury patients. And this card game, so when somebody would get into that loop, you'd ask them a question, it would stimulate a different part of their brain and kind of get them out of that loop.
That is amazing. Is that on your site?
That is, that is on my site.
I can't wait to delve into your site more. That is so cool, Robin. I love it. I love it. I love it. So who should be going to your site?
Honestly, if you are somebody who is either caring for either someone who's elderly, whether or not that they're sick yet, you know, you can learn some great, you'll find some valuable information. Or if you're caring for somebody that has special needs, whether you're preparing because somebody is elderly and maybe they're still very much with it, but my mom was fine. I was out to dinner with her 2 nights before she had a stroke, and then boom, she suddenly had a stroke. And what happens is people will then call me, and I'm like, I've gotten calls from people where they're like, we just called an ambulance, you know, my mother can't breathe. And I'm like, okay, you need to go to the hospital first. Like, give me a call after you speak to the doctor, and then, you know, I'll you know, talk you through and give you some questions. But I'm not your 911 call. I will help ease you through the process, and because your emotions are very high, and so sometimes being prepared for that, which is what we do on our site. It's not just for if you have somebody that you're dealing with some issues, great. There's definitely resources there. But if you need to be prepared, we discuss all of that too, and you know, things that you can do in advance of having, you know, a medical trauma in your family. So pretty much anyone that's got aging parents or even young kids that have special needs, that's who we cater to.
Such an important resource, Robin. Such an important resource. Well, I loved having you here. You didn't have to disappear. I don't know where you went, but there you go. Okay. I just loved having you here. I'll see you Thursday. But wellnessresourcesupport.com. Robin, great job. Great information. Just really needed. And I know you've been taking off and like wildfire. So I wish you the best of luck. And everybody could use the site, wellnessresourcesupport.com. Robin, she's the best. Thank you so much, Robin.
Thank you very much for having me
on again. You give us some hints and tips on all different things, and love your story. Thank you so much. I'm going to say goodbye to you now.
Bye.
Bye, Robin. Thank you. That was Robin. She is unbelievable. Like, honestly, I really thought she was a nurse when I met her because she knew everything. She was like, I just thought it sprung from being in the medical community and knowing that this is a tool that people needed. And it was amazing. And I just, when I heard she was just in corporate America, I'm like, what? I don't mean just corporate America, but it had nothing to do with what she was doing. It was crazy. So I will say goodbye till tomorrow, 5 o'clock. I will see you here tomorrow at 5 o'clock. And I was going to tell everybody who wanted a book how to get one. You could write to me or email me or call me. That's Deirdre Verbo, 203-689-7562. Special number set up for the book. And feel free, dverbo@gmail. Oh. And we have awesome information, ladies, from Dan, our biggest fan. Thank you, Dan. Much appreciated. Love it. See you guys tomorrow.
Hi, Deirdre here again. Thank you for joining me on Let's Talk Seniors Memory Care Issues. Is this an issue hitting home? Do you have a parent or loved one with memory care issues who you feel is not safe at home anymore? Are isolation, falls, and safety issues becoming a big concern? Welcome to Dogwood Senior Home, premier boutique residential senior living specializing in memory care. It's country living at its best in the Huntington section of Shelton, Connecticut. We're truly a home with only 6 senior residents living as one family unit. Senior residential homes are concepts sweeping the nation with 47,000 across the U.S. We're pleased to open Dogwood Senior Home as it will be only number 6 for Connecticut. Brand new, sparkling clean, opening mid-June. And safe. We are COVID-free. Residential care homes boast a very low COVID infection rate across the nation. This is due to the intimacy of size and speed in which the caretakers can shift to accommodate immediate needs. They are much safer than the large homes and facilities, as you can imagine. It has been documented that residents have less falls and a better quality of life in a residential home environment. Our home is more affordable than the big box facility. You pay one all-inclusive price, and that price is guaranteed for the life of the resident. With an incredible 1-to-3 caregiver ratio, which you won't find anywhere else. Our friendly, loving caregivers are dedicated and trained in Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's issues. We're only taking 6 residents, so the home will fill up fast. Call me at 203-689-7562 for a talk and tour. I would love to meet you and your loved one. See you soon.